Hello and welcome, history fans, to History Play-by-Play. Today we continue to talk about Christopher Columbus, this time after his first voyage, telling you that just about everything you've ever been taught is wrong.
In all alone. Dangle, shot. He scores!
So when we left off, we were looking at how just about everything you know about Columbus is wrong, and it's completely mistaught. First off, his name wasn't Christopher Columbus. The names of the ships weren't Nina Pinta Santa Maria. He wasn't the first European to reach the New World. He did know that he reached some kind of new landmass. All these, and he was just a terrible human being, which usually gets overlooked in all of this. So after the first voyage, he gets back with just two ships that are battered and bruises and had to land in Portugal first because he couldn't make it to Spain. Again, think about that. So immediately, he is given a new voyage, 1,200 men, 17 ships. They are sent back to create a colony in what Columbus has discovered. And in so doing this, he starts looking for more and more of this gold that really isn't there, enslaves thousands of Taino Native Americans, American Indians, indigenous peoples, because again, not in the United States, for these indigenous peoples, enslaving them and just horrific treatment of these people. They had to go out and get so much gold every single month, or they would get their hands cut off, and they had to wear a pendant basically saying that, yes, I found my quota of gold for this 3 months. It's utterly astounding. And Bartolomeo de las Casas would write scathing reviews of what's going on in the Americas. He wrote journals to report on what was happening to the indigenous people, and they are really tough to read even today because of just how gruesome Columbus was. He led genocides long before that was ever a term. The population of the Caribbean dropped by about 90%. It's extreme what happened, and while he wasn't setting out to eliminate the peoples, he certainly wasn't trying not to eliminate the peoples. So his mismanagement, even among the Europeans, was so abysmal that after many reviews and many things where he was sending off slaves and trying to pay off creditors and not giving all of it to the king and queen, there were a lot of sketchy things Columbus was doing, and he was really being awful with the people of his colony. And so they did reviews, the king and queen sent people to check on these things, and eventually he was recalled and dragged back to Spain to answer for what he was doing. It would only be a few years of Columbus bugging them for them to allow him to take yet another voyage, a third voyage, where he would continue to look for more and more land, trying to look for more and more resources and more gold. But eventually, his wife's lover is sent by the Spanish crown to go and find Columbus and recall him, and eventually they actually put him in leg irons and chains and send him back to Spain. He was very bad at all of this. And then it goes again, wash, rinse, repeat. He ends up bugging the king and queen for more and for another chance, and he gets it. And he ends up being marooned in Central America for over a year before one of his people can bargain for a canoe to get them back to somewhere that the Spanish have explored, and finally get sent back. In the end, the part of the legend is that Columbus died unknown and penniless. Not even close. He was very wealthy from everything he got. He had a lifetime pension and so on. He was declared Admiral of the Ocean Seas, a title that is still carried by his family members 18 generations later. He was recognized for discovering something. Even he knew that this was a new land, and I think he dared to call it a continent once, but even then I don't think he realizes the full scope of just how much land was here. How could anyone at this point? So yeah, he did all of the things that he died penniless and obscure and had no idea what he had found, and he insisted that it had to have been India. All of that is just patently false. Now, was Columbus the first? I say probably not. No, he definitely wasn't. This list is from a fantastic book, Lies My Teacher Told Me, by James Lowen. Highly recommend it. Just about every history teacher is going to recommend that you read this book. So go take a look. Numerous groups of people, including the American Indians who settled the land initially. There's a reason that there were all these people already here. From the Bering Land Bridge, which is, there's some questions on whether or not that was actually a thing. Either way, they got here over Siberia to Alaska by boats, by land bridge. We're not entirely sure, but they made it. There's evidence of Indonesia, of peoples getting to South America. There is some evidence for Japan having had people land in Ecuador. There are connections between the peoples of New Mexico and people in Siberia that you can find through all this archaeological things that is absolutely not my forte. Lots and lots more from China to Central America. There's a lot of legends that kind of match these things. One of the strongest, the Afro-Phoenicia, the Phoenicians were amazing seafarers, and likely they made it to Central America. And there are a lot of things that archaeologists point out in Central America that really look like the Phoenicians and look like things the Phoenicians had done. There is a lot of evidence to say that Africans found the New World first. There's talk about Celtic Britain. The legend of St. Brendan says that there's places out there. There's myths from Ireland and Iceland. There's a lot of sagas with the Vikings. Things from Polynesia to Chile, West Africa to Panama and Brazil, Portugal to Newfoundland. There's not to mention all the Vikings involved founding Vinland in northern Canada. And then finally, when we get to 1492, it's just the first time that it's written down and well established and doesn't go away, or the link continues between old country, new country, for lack of better terms. So what should we know about Columbus? What things did happen? Well, first off, he is the first European that is recognized as reaching the Americas, establishing this link. While all that other stuff is there, that's the terminology that's usually applied to it. The more accurate response is that he started the movement of Europeans to the Americas, which starts things that lead to why I'm here today. It's hard to say that wasn't started by Columbus. It is certainly the beginning of the decline of Native American, of American Indian civilizations and European conquest. That's tragic. He was responsible for the death of millions of Native Americans through biological means, through direct conquest, through enslavement. It horrible stuff. And for historians who like to put things in nice, neat little boxes, it is very easy to use 1492 as a shift in eras. Whether or not that is truly accurate, no one in 1492 said, hey, we're going to start a new chapter of history. History can easily be divided into pre-Columbian and post-Columbian, or if you prefer, pre-contact and post-contact. That there's a lot to be said about the verbiage there. And there's one other thing that you really cannot deny when it comes to Columbus, and that is the start of the Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange is a mass movement, intentional and unintentional, of vegetables, fruits, animals, and other things from the old world to the new, and from the new world to the old. This exchange brought things like horses and cattle to the New World. It brought citrus fruits. I mean, what is Florida without its orange juice? Well, that didn't happen before Columbus. It wasn't here. Sugarcane as well wasn't in North America. The honeybee. I don't understand how that works pre-honeybee, but I'll defer that to someone who's a biology teacher. And then things brought back. Tomatoes and potatoes weren't in Europe prior to Columbus's voyages. I don't know what European food looked like without those two. What would I eat when I go get Italian or something like that? It blows my mind. So the Columbian Exchange is a significant thing. There is always a downside, though. None of this is ever clean. What also comes from Europe are diseases. Major diseases that the old world had for centuries, that they had dealt with because of their large populations of domesticated animals, or at least that's the claims of Jared Diamond and Guns, Germs, and Steel. Those domesticated animals made for jumps to humans, and those diseases were brought to the New World, and it outright decimated the population of the Americas because they had never had any kind of exposure to that in the past. One last note, though I think I will talk about Columbus Day in one more video, that way back in 1486, a Spanish committee that was studying Columbus's claims before he was ever approved by the Queen, so many centuries after the creation, is unlikely that anyone could find hitherto unknown lands of any value. How poorly that aged. There are so many claims that this is the end, this is the last thing we're going to be, we're at the peak of whatever we're doing, this is the best it's going to get. Everyone says that of their own time all the time, and every single time they're wrong. So imagine how close, if we kept with the closed-minded, if we kept with that idea that, no, there's nothing else out there worth finding, how limited would we be? Don't listen to the naysayers. If there's one thing I can pull out of this, there's a lot of new things that come out of this. And that is all I got for the actual history of Christopher Columbus. That's the end of the episode. What you just saw is this teacher's interpretation of events. If you use this for a class, let me know how that went in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you can figure out how today's jersey matches the content, let me know in the comments. That's extra credit. I'm John Baranowski. Thanks for watching.